Welcome to the TOEFL Listening section. In this section, you will listen to an academic lecture and then answer questions about what you heard. You may take notes while you listen. You will have time to review your notes before answering the questions. Listen to part of a lecture in a university class. You will hear the lecture only once, so listen carefully. After the lecture, you will answer some questions about what you heard. Some questions ask about the main ideas and supporting details. Other questions ask you to make inferences or connections between ideas. Answer each question based on what is stated or implied in the lecture.
Good morning, everyone. Today we will examine the economic effects of trade agreements and how those effects shape domestic and international policy choices. When states sign treaties to reduce tariffs and align rules, they do more than change prices. They alter incentives for firms, workers, and governments, and they change the pattern of cross-border investment. First, consider trade creation and trade diversion. These are classic welfare concepts. Trade creation occurs when preferential access allows consumers to buy from a more efficient partner instead of a higher-cost domestic producer. That increases overall welfare. By contrast, trade diversion means that a trade agreement shifts imports from a lower-cost external producer to a higher-cost partner because of preferential tariffs. Trade diversion can reduce global efficiency even while intra-pact trade rises. A concrete example is useful. The North American agreement that evolved from NAFTA to USMCA lowered barriers among the United States, Canada, and Mexico, and created supply chain integration in the auto sector, but it also diverted some purchases away from non-member suppliers who may have been lower cost in specific components. Second, there are distributional effects within countries. Tariff cuts benefit consumers through lower prices and greater choice, but they also create concentrated losers. Sri Lankan textile firms, for example, faced stiff adjustment after preferential access was extended elsewhere and required retraining programs. Third, regulatory harmonization and mutual recognition of standards often matter more than tariff levels in practice. Reducing non-tariff barriers lowers compliance costs and encourages foreign direct investment firms are more likely to establish operations when rules of origin and standards are predictable. For instance, the European single market relied heavily on mutual recognition of standards and regulatory coordination rather than on simple tariff elimination. This promoted deep integration and large intra-regional flows of goods and services. Fourth, trade agreements affect fiscal policy. Reduced tariffs mean lower tariff revenue for governments that previously relied on import taxes. For developing countries, this creates a need for alternative tax reforms or external financing to cover transitional budget shortfalls. Fifth, multilateral and plurilateral agreements can include labor and environmental clauses. This is visible in recent Pacific agreements such as the CPTPP. Those clauses can incentivize domestic legal reforms, but their enforcement depends on institutional capacity and political will. Sixth, dispute resolution mechanisms matter. They provide predictability and reduce investor risk. A reliable arbitration process increases commercial confidence and can stimulate cross-border investment, especially in infrastructure and services. Seventh, consider supply chain complexity. Modern agreements often produce deep integration across stages of production. As firms fragment production geographically, tariffs and rules of origin determine where different stages locate, and that reshapes regional development patterns. Finally, policy complementarities are crucial. Trade liberalization works best with active domestic policies for adjustment. Social safety nets, investment in education, and migration policies reduce the political cost of liberalization and spread benefits more evenly. In summary, trade agreements generate gains for consumers, firms, and overall growth, but they also create winners and losers, alter fiscal balances, and can either improve or damage global efficiency depending on design. The challenge for policymakers is to design agreements and domestic policies that maximize creation and minimize diversion while managing distributional impacts.
Listen again to part of the lecture. Then answer the question.
Trade diversion means that a trade agreement shifts imports from a lower-cost external producer to a higher-cost partner because of preferential tariffs.
This concludes the listening section. For more TOEFL practice tests and study materials, visit Spinta.org.